Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, this is Chris Gandy, your co-host of Advisor Today podcast, where we feature top leaders in the insurance and financial services industry. I'm joined by our wonderful co-host, Ms. Suzanne Carroll of NAIFA. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Chris.
Today, we're going to be welcoming Carroll Golden, and past guests include past President Tom Michael, yet Leader of the Year, Brian Haney, and other industries greats like Brian Ashton, just to name a few. Suzanne, you want to talk to us a little bit about our sponsor today?
Yeah, today's episode is brought to us by NAIFA's Limited and Extended Care Planning Center sponsors. We've had a multitude of sponsors who've helped support and build the center from scratch, which originated in 2018. And today's guest is Carroll Golden, who's led the charge in building out NAIFA's first center of excellence and has gone on to spearhead different centers, which I'm sure we'll unpack today. But Carroll is here to talk about the work that she's done in long-term care. Today's a special day because we're actually simultaneously doing an entire virtual impact day on Don't Be Scared of Long-Term Care, since it is Halloween and tomorrow kicks off Long-Term Care Awareness Month. So Carroll, we're delighted to have you. Thank you for joining us, even though you've got a super jam-packed schedule. And we're looking forward to talking to you today.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. And thank you for the invitation.
All right, Ms. Carroll. So let's get going. And how this kind of works is, I'll be asking some of the questions today. And again, I'll ask you questions about your past, kind of the things you're working on. We're going to talk a little bit about, this wonderful book and what's coming up, and NLC and opportunities that you're super excited about, and points that I think that you'd like others to know and be a part of, specifically in and around the long-term care space. So let's get started. So long-term care, I've been in the business now 23 years, and I can tell you only in the last probably 3 or 4 years that I really embrace long-term care and kind of the impact it can have on clients, because I saw clients starting to age. Can you share with us why, your passion and why long-term care is so important to you?
Sure. When I first started out, I was doing financial planning. I was working with an attorney, a CPA, and myself. And we were putting together estate plans and other financial planning instruments. When lo and behold, one of them blew up because the wife had a stroke and was going to be in a bad way for a long time. It wasn't going to be terminal. She was going to need long-term care for a long time. And it really changed everything that we had laid out, not realizing we had missed the risk of what happens when you do need extended care or long-term care. After that, it happened a second time. And that's when, Chris, I got interested in looking at the contracts that were out there, which were not great. And one of the carriers came to me and said, look, if you're that interested, why don't you come and work for us and see what we're up against, what we can and cannot do from a legislative point of view, and so on and so forth. So that was the beginning of why I got interested. I felt that I had truly let those clients down and that there would be more to come.
So we're on the doorstep of long-term care month, right? Long-term care awareness month. And talk to us a little bit about, how did you get started in the business? I mean, it's always interesting. Everybody starts at a different place. How did you get started in the business?
Well, having had that experience, I started to read the contracts because my first career, I was a translator. And so I really valued the impact that a word can have. And considering we all learn words in the context of our life. So, and that's not always a shared context. So your parents have maybe a different view than you do of exactly the same solution or the same issue. So I started to get more and more interested in how consumers were literally ignoring the risk of long-term care, and things progressed from there. Lots of research. I love research. Lots of ability to literally talk with those who were distributing. I left the carrier and went out into distribution because I felt maybe I didn't understand how difficult a conversation this was. That's how I actually got started, trying to educate myself.
So education is empowerment, right?
It certainly is. And
so your track of being in the business. So kind of give us an idea of what's your day to day. Suzanne mentioned a little bit about you're insanely busy, super successful, but share with us. So what are you up to today, and kind of how is your, when you wake up in the morning, what's your typical schedule look like?
Well, I'm a person who, through long-term care, really values staying in good health. Wellness is a buzzword now, but in order to really understand how to maximize my ability to work, I literally start out at the gym, Chris, because that gets me, whether I'm bicycling or lifting weights or whatever, it's my time. And I find that that's when I say, okay, today is our don't be scared of long-term care. What's this going to look like for me? How am I going to work out the rest of the day? I really love being part of LECP. We're now very intently working on the Employee and Executive Benefits Center because we feel that so many people now, you, me, etc., we have to be specialists. There's so much information that we can't really know it all. So when NAIFA had the opportunity to create these centers of excellence that allow our members, if they don't know about a particular product or a particular place to go, it provides them with that. So I think a lot about how to enhance it. I have worked very closely with Suzanne for 5 years, building this opportunity for NAIFA members to say, they have my back. They really understand that I can't be everywhere at all times, that I need their help. And the centers are a big part of every day for me because, one, we depend on our sponsors. Our centers don't actually take any money from the membership dues. It's our sponsors, like One America, that literally make the centers possible so that we can put on programs like today's program. We've already done this morning reverse mortgages. We've done behavioral finance. We did a session on advocacy. And now we have Jeff Levin doing one from One America. This will go until 6 o'clock tonight because we really try every day to provide something significant to our members.
So I'd say, Carroll, just in doing this for the last 5 years, when we first started out, when you and I first met, one of the initiatives we had was to try to, people still like long-term care was this, it was a terrible word, right? No one wanted to talk about, they only had traditional products, the whole thing, and like hybrids were just coming to the market, et cetera. And now, what a change. You want to reflect on where we are with COVID and everything else. It's how things have changed and where we are for most financial advisors today, and then kind of the work that's still to be done.
Yes, I think when you think about, as Suzanne said, 5 years ago, even in calling the center, trying to find a name, frankly, Chris, we were afraid to call it the long-term care center because it's back away. Let's not go there. So that's why we called it the limited and extended care emphasis on planning center. And I think for the most part, we, as an industry now, when the Washington CARES Act fund came through and there was this flurry for every carrier, every distributor, everybody started talking about the risks that all of a sudden, even the state was starting to say, this is getting to be the time. Enormous sums are being spent by the state, by private citizens. We really have come to the point now where we have to have a solution. So when I'm talking to advisors, when I was working in that area, this is a risk. We talk about investment risk, we talk about market risk, we talk about inflation risk. Why don't we talk about something that can quickly interfere with the plans that you have? Think of the tax impacts when I come to you, Chris, as a client and say, Chris, this is going to cost me like $100,000 a year. And it's kind of, I can expect 10 years. What can you do? That's not a surprise that Chris wants. And we want to make sure that you have at least spoken to them about it's another risk. We need to discuss this.
On the eve of Halloween, it is Halloween today, right. No one wants to be scared. And I can say that, part of it for me as an advisor has been education and the opportunity to really understand. So can you, for those who are out there that were like me, many people will say, or many advisors will say, well, they have disability insurance, so that'll take care of it. Or, obviously common thought is that, I have health insurance, or, Medicare will take care of it. That's the common thought. And so advisors will back away from it because they're like, I don't know how to overcome that. B, maybe they're right. And C, I don't know enough to be dangerous to really equip myself with enough tools, because perhaps my main carrier, the current company I work for or I affiliate with, may not have that product or may not promote that product to their through their channels. So how do I overcome that? And what would you say to those people?
I have two main answers that I usually give. Well, one, it's the reason I wrote the book, the first book, How Not to Tear Your Family Apart, with 93 links, references, websites, so that if they want to initially at least look at, can you use an HSA to pay premiums later for long-term care after I retire, if I'm worried about that they would have a reference book. And then with the encouragement of many of my friends, Suzanne included, we felt that we needed a consumer book that an advisor could give to a consumer and say, here's a multi-generational family facing this issue. And you'll see yourself in there. So if you read even a part of it, why don't we just talk about what in there did you think could have been better for that family or would apply to you? What I think is starting the conversation, you don't really need expertise for that. You need courage, and you need, in the book, I created 3 steps, a formula. How can I talk about this topic? The other thing is education. We have an entire center where there is nothing that you're not going to be able to find. One of the solutions called out for the particular family in this book is vets benefits. Complicated? Very. Do we have an expert on it? Yes. We have someone who wrote the book on Medicare. As you said, they often think Medicare is going to handle it. So we need to dispel that. So I often encourage people, Start the conversation. I don't think they're going to look to you for an answer because they don't even know to ask the question yet.
I am, I'm so impressed by the fact that this has been the initiative of NAIFA to build this out. Wayne Gretzky said it best when they asked him when he joined the Hall of Fame is hey, Wayne, why was your goal so many more than everyone else's? And Wayne Gretzky said, because I skate where the puck is going, not where the puck is at. And, we have to anticipate, and we have to go and have courage, and have the ability to have those conversations, even when we don't have all the information. All successful people, though, they've all we see is the success. We don't see the trials and tribulations. So what would you say has been if you look back at history of your career, what would you say has been the biggest, let's call it either challenge or pitfall that confronted you? And then how did you deal with that?
I would say,
or obstacle. We'll say obstacle. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say I'm my biggest obstacle. I never learned to say no. My kids always say, Mom, you've got to learn to say no. I really believe that successful people like yourself, you're very focused. And whenever I hear you speak, or whenever I'm working with people at NAIFA in leadership positions, they stay focused. So that's what I had to overcome, spreading myself too thin, thinking I had to have the answers when actually I could call Chris. No, I think that for me, that was a hard lesson to learn. I always wanted to solve everyone's problems. I had to learn to figure out, how do I know what's their problem? Maybe they actually don't have longevity on their side, and I'm lunging into this discussion of longevity when actually their discussion is they don't have family nearby. Completely missed the mark. So for me, the biggest obstacle was learning to focus on incoming and say no to excessive outgoing.
I'd also say, Carroll, I mean, in working with you for 5+ years, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on it just a tad bit, which is, it's not like when we first started working together, there was a trust factor because the majority of your career has been spent with men. And it was a different thing to start really working with women. And you were, I think, very blessed and very fortunate that you created a study group of just amazing women that you've been together. How long now? Like 20 years, maybe?
Right.
Can you kind of touch on that for just a bit? Because I think that's really important to know. You're really a trailblazer in that regard. I mean, clearly there's many people that come for you as well, but you certainly did your part in making sure that we could push women financial advisors forward.
Yes, I think I was very lucky that I was invited to join this group almost 2 decades ago. The group was already in existence. And what I learned was that 20 years ago, it took a woman to pull another woman through. It was still, you have a string of designations. Can you please go get the coffee and we'll talk about it later? That sort of thing. So these women got together and decided that, as a matter of fact, it led me to realize for the centers that the diversity in the group was essential, because it was a very diverse group of women, all coming from the same topic, long-term care, from different angles, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. And therefore, I wasn't hearing myself. We would get together and we would literally present PowerPoints to one another so that we would understand what's the role of reinsurance in this industry. Why do actuaries model things? What does that mean, etc.? So it wasn't only about the things I knew, it was about the bigger picture. So when I came to NAIFA and was asked about the centers, I thought, this is important. We have to make it the bigger picture. It can't be the usual suspects only. It has to lead to asking women business owners. We have several members who are women business owners, and therefore they need a voice too. We have several that are involved in behind the scenes, caregiving, nurses. How do we adjudicate who's a claim and who's not a claim? So what I learned was that we have to stand up for everybody. It can't just be what I had to grow up with just generally men in charge. So it's that group continues to be a total inspiration for me. I just attended the Big Drinker Summit and was very impressed with the information there. It's from a legal point of view. We don't often hear that. What are the legal challenges that the industry is facing? So it was a very good model for me, and I paid it forward. I have been pulling up, I have to tell you guys that I'm in the middle of working on a Spanish version of the book so that some people who don't necessarily feel comfortable with just one language, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help those who need help. And that doesn't always mean insurance.
Yeah, and on that one, I was just going to add one of the things I think has been the most fascinating, and Chris, you can definitely weigh in on this one too, is during this journey we had in this last 5 years, we didn't know COVID was coming, right? And that completely upset how everybody thought, of course, of nursing homes. No one wants to go there now. That's not part of the plan. People want to stay at home, and caregiving changed, the workforce changed, et cetera. But the other piece that really, I think, came to light is that when it comes to long-term care, how specific it is to cultures, right? And different groups of people. Like if there's one thing that's really specific to kind of where you come from and how you want to work with your clients, it's that how people are going to, go through long-term care and maybe towards the end of life is very specific, and something that I think we've tried to really highlight, that advisors need to develop those sensitivities, understand their markets, right? And that's something I think that uniquely both of you have done a phenomenal job on. So I mean, I'd probably ask both of you as advisors, like, do you want to touch on that a little bit? Because I think that's something that's a really salient point that's come out of COVID, of understanding that it's, not all, like long-term care is a very sensitive issue. Staying in your home, caregiving, right? A sensitive issue. And then what are some sensitivities, of how financial advisors need to develop some new skills there?
Carroll, what are your thoughts? Around that? I mean, obviously, we're very humbled to have you on. Carroll did not mention. Carroll, will you just quickly mention the name of your book? And I know we can get it on Amazon. The word is she's actually going to be signing it at NLC if you buy enough of them. So, but the name of it, can you hold it up?
There you go.
This is the one for the industry: how not to tear your family apart. The other one is how not to pull your family apart. And it has no references. It is simply to allow any client in any situation to read through. I go through, Chris, every available way of looking at this, because, not everybody has a budget and not everybody has health that will allow them to look at insurance. So we do need to be sensitive to the fact, it frustrates me that so many people don't use their county services, which they're running themselves ragged, but there are services that deliver food, that can transport somebody so that, the person who is the caregiver can continue to do their job because they have this other help. So I think it's important that we recognize that a lot of people have a particular situation. Their idea of investing is very important to them. So if they can continue to use other services and can continue to invest in their work so they can do their 401k or send some funds to their investment person. That's major. That's who we have to be.
Talk to us a little bit about just advice. So what is the future? Let's fast forward the tape. What does long-term care look like 10 years from now? I mean, the distribution of long-term care, if I look at it in my history, the distribution of long-term care has changed dramatically from when I started, right? When I started, everybody and their mother was issuing long-term care policies, right? That market has shrunk. And the future of long-term care, can you speak to that? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what does the market look like in the future? If you could give it a once over, I mean, and I want your profession. I just want your thoughts. Obviously, you don't know the answer, but just kind of, what do you think?
I think that's a great question. And one of the things that I will say is, like you, I saw that go from traditional long-term care where they mispriced a lot of it based on life insurance, et cetera, to the creation of hybrids. And at the Legislative Working Group and part of LECP, we are aware that, for example, the state of Washington is speaking with 5 carriers about creating a supplement to their mandatory program. So we can expect to see some new product there. There's also a great deal of discussion. I'm under an NDA, but I can tell you that there are a very well-rated carrier who is in the process of product approval that is very different from the products that we're looking at now. And we have one state that has approved products that look like life stage products. So I think, looking in the crystal ball, which is obviously a bit foggy, but I would say, to answer your question, Chris, I think we're going to see a very much more diverse way of answering with products. The short-term care product, for someone who has very limited funds, but is quite ill, may want to leverage their money. We're seeing that that's already approved in 40 states. And the sponsor in LECP, Aetna, has given us a lot of information on where they think their new product is going to go. I think it's demographics. I think it's state legislation. And I think it's the awareness of more and more investment people, agents, and advisors saying, I better look at my own family, let alone my book of business. It's matured to the point where I think in the future we can expect more people talking about it, many more states involved in it, new carriers coming in because they'll look at what's my approval process now, because that's another thing that has come up, getting new product approved for some of the newer needs. I think we will look a lot more to technology. Think of where telehealth has gone. That's going to influence where you can access care, therefore the amount of risk that you have, that you would have to leave your home. As Suzanne pointed out, COVID was a chilling, scary, awful experience for most people. I think that will also raise awareness. So that's 5 or 6 different areas that I think we're going to see substantial changes. What a great question.
Well, I figured I'd ask you the question that I know you weren't. You're always ready to answer the question, but yeah. So our first book is out, and the second one, should we look forward to that next year?
No, I think it'll be this year. Okay. I am sending in the final, they make you go through point by point your layout. It's truly to help everybody see that this is not one person's issue. All of us belong to multi-generational families. And so there's so much bad news about long-term care and extended care. I decided in this book, this family was going to find solutions. Were there disagreements? Were there tension? Yeah, well, I designed 3 steps to minimize that. from working over the years with my women's group, with NAIFA members, with carriers, and with distributors, tried to put it all together to say, how can we approach it without talking about us, but talking about their family? And as the book goes on, the advisor, the agent, they're the facilitator. And when you are a facilitator, your book of business will grow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I can tell you that it's always a pleasure having you here. One last question for you. Your biggest, your proudest moment, to date, obviously you've had numerous ones, but the one that stands out is, you know what, this has been my proudest moment so far. Obviously we're still growing and developing as professionals and human beings alike. But what is it, if you take a look and you were to summarize just one, what would you say is your proudest moment in this industry so far?
Well, that's a tough question, but I will say that when my book came out, I'm a workaholic, and I always felt that my children had to put up with my always looking. I love to learn, Chris. So every time there was a new degree, I had to go and study and learn and do. But when the book came out, it was my two children and my son's wife who celebrated. They were so moved. I'm going to get choked up. But that was probably so meaningful to me. And then having people that I have worked with over the many years send me congratulations and thanks. It was so much work. I had so much help, but it was my give back. And my give back has turned out to be my blessing, which I didn't expect.
And so can you so what has NAIFA meant to you during your career? I mean, you've been able to partner, you've been able to work connectively with NAIFA. I mean, you're woven into the fabric of who we are as a family member within NAIFA. I mean, what is NAIFA and the relationship with NAIFA meant to you?
I think talk about feeling that you are able to help our members grow. I am a member. I belong to a chapter. And that feeling of family, that feeling that no matter what I need, I emailed two members of my own chapter last night saying, hey, I need advice. What do you think of this? It's that feeling of family, of community, of belonging to an organization that spends its entire time trying to make me and mine more successful. That feeling that we'll take time with one another to ferret out the information that will help us grow our business, help us grow as a person. And frankly, I love the events. I mean, whether it's a chapter event or an annual event, I hope to see everybody at NLC because it's a fun event and it's a great place to really recognize that we are family. We do care and we do what we need to do to better ourselves, not only as an organization, but each person individually.
You know, it's funny, Chris, when Carroll first got here, she thought she was merely going to be a consultant and give all her expertise. And then as years go by, she's really drinks the Kool-Aid of NAIFA. And the next thing you know, she's recruiting people, right? She's got referrals going out. she's bringing people in. She's talking the whole thing. And it's that's what it's all about. So Carroll has quite a few notches on her belt on membership recruitment as well. So that's fantastic. We're always growing the family.
So with that being said, we have a lightning round, and that lightning round is more in the rule of thumb. Others have done it. Is whatever comes off the top of your head, that's what you say. Again, they're very vanilla questions, but they're questions just to kind of, some make you chuckle, some make you say, you know what, yeah, I don't know. But typically we've had a little bit of fun with this, catching people. This is a curveball in the ninth inning, and we're going to lay it up for you. So with that being said, are you ready to go?
I guess, yes.
All right. So Suzanne, do you have anything before we launch into our quote unquote lightning round?
No, just my advice to Carol, just don't overthink it. Just go with the top of mind.
Okay.
So Ms. Carroll, we'll start off pretty easy. So we're on the precipice of Halloween. So what's your favorite sweet treat or candy?
Hot chocolate.
Perfect. All right. So your favorite mentor. So someone who's mentored you that they're inspiring.
My first manager, Charles Mariska at New England Financial.
Okay. And advice you would give to someone starting in the business if they started today? What's the one thing you would tell them?
Join NAIFA. You're going to need the support of others who have walked in your shoes.
And you mentioned you have children. Which one of your children would you say that, or no, I take that back. Here's one. If your children can take you somewhere on this planet, anywhere on vacation, where would you like for them to, this is something for you. So now we can play this for them. Where would you want them to take you?
France. I speak French.
Comment ça va?
Oui.
Yeah. See, so those of you who don't know, I lived in France for over 2 years playing professional basketball. So last question, which I think everyone wants to know, your favorite food.
Oh, I would say, and this is going to sound crazy, nuts. I love any kind of nuts, whether you put it in bread, whether it's peanut butter, whatever you're going to do with them. I really like nuts.
Wonderful. And so with that being said, there's no right or wrong answer, but with that being said, Ms. Carroll Golden, it's always a blessing to have you here. Thank you so much for not only your effort, your energy, and your leadership. You have paved the way for numerous others, not only professionals to understand long-term care and enhance their business, but obviously you've provided a unique approach because you've paved the way for other young women to come into this industry and aspire to be like you. So round of applause for you. Thank you so much for your service. Before we wrap up, Suzanne, do you have anything?
I'd say thank you, Carol. All the same, big ditto on that. If it wasn't for Carol, I would never have gone to the ILTCI conference and learned in one session that a handful of nuts and walking in tandem every day will stave off Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So that combination is a really key piece. And I would never have picked up the little fun fact, which I practice regularly. So thank you, Carol.
I'll have to remember that. Ms. Carroll, do you have anything parting words you would like to leave us with before I wrap us up?
No, I want to thank you both. Frankly, I totally enjoyed discussing this with the two of you. And I think we'll all just carry on, please.
Wonderful. Well, thank everyone for listening to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast, where we promote, uplift, educate, and support each other just so we can help our clients go off, be well, and make this world a better place at least 1% at a time. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.